Hey everybody, we are going to be covering 5 Diablo 4 tips, the biggest mistakes I've made so far in Infernal Hordes, places where I just was choosing the wrong thing or choosing it at the wrong time. I want to make sure you guys don't make that same mistake. There has also been a update that just came up. This will include the changes to that and my recommendations even with those changes. And then at the end, we're actually going to cover some things that you should almost never choose because they just are a big cost to you. And I'll tell you exactly why. But throughout this video, we are going to cover what was in those updates and make sure that you guys have those in your head as well. What actually changed and how does it affect you? So the first one on the list is something that has been massively improved with the updates. So not choosing the Raining Hellfire. I really underestimated what they were, but there's also a secondary benefit to them that is really, really cool. And that is in your second options, you have the chance to actually have Hellfires bring down Hellborn. Hellborn are the most beneficial. And so everything I'm going to do to ramp up Hellborn also affect when they're rained down as well. Now, the update has taken the value from 1 to 3 extra ether for choosing this after a round to 3 to 9. Definitely a much better add, and with the extra benefit of possibly getting the Hellborn as a choice, that is so much cooler than I thought it was. So I am taking this very often. I'm not taking it over Hellborn, but I am taking it. Next, there was things I was not even thinking about because they did not affect more ether. They were not Hellborn. They didn't add ether to the whole pile. They didn't spawn the events that I wanted, and I kind of ignored them, but they can be extremely powerful. There is one caveat. It is a matter of what your build is doing right now. So the first one is one that adds 25% more damage to all monsters, the minions basically, and then you get increased speed every time you pick up ether. Every time you get one of those reward things that you're going to cash in at the end, you speed up. So that can help massively clear, get to events quickly, and start keeping it loading to get to those high numbers. Now, if your build's already crazy fast or you're using teleport to jump over to the thing in a split second, don't even worry about this. You're getting there plenty fast. Take something that might be more beneficial. None of these would I pick over Hellborn. Just pick Hellborn. That is the first primary thing to do. Next is there's another option that when you destroy an ether mass, that you also get unlimited resources for a bit. So you can constantly just shoot out. So if your build is just doing way more damage, if you can just pump, whatever main attack it is, even for the time limit they have, it's actually a pretty decent amount of time, if I remember. You are just going to mow down everything. And especially if it's something that clears, even off screen, then this can be a very valuable way to spawn a bunch of effects. So again, both of these are going to be very dependent on your build. And then the last one, again, this one, it woke me up to this. This is the one that really showed me, hey, I might be missing something here. And that was the Invigorating Hellborn. I love that it's Invigorating Hellborn because any option that affects Hellborns bring more Hellborns. That was the only reason I was choosing it. But if I saw another option like events loaded 50% faster by making the monsters a little harder or doubling elites, I would choose those over this. And I think that was actually a huge mistake. It may not be for every build. So I was playing a Lightning Spear Sorceress, and when I chose this option, I was watching early on in the early rounds before this option came up, and I was getting somewhere between 12 and 16 of the spears out at any given time. Now, all the spears are going to do the same damage, so if I can get more spears, I can clear better and just obliterate everything. Now, with Invigorating, I noticed as soon as I took it, that went from 12 to 16 average to jumping to 26. I was seeing 26 on the regular. And so imagine how much more I'm killing with that many more spears out. It's just awesome. So it may be very dependent on your build. Test it out. Make sure that you are getting the same jump I am. But once this was in place, especially if I had some good Hellborn options before this, I'm just clearing everything and making a ton of ether. Now, speaking of Hellborn, which I have done a lot already, but I'm going to continue. They are the best. They're probably going to change this long term, but right now they are just absolutely dominant. They load multiple and you get tons of rewards for them. So one of the things that I had wrong was when to choose these. I had a list in our last video where I put things that I would choose to speed it up and ramp it up and get better rewards, and the things to slow it down and make sure you can get through that tier. So imagine you're jumping into the tier for the first time and you just want to get through. I had a list for that. What I was wrong about is how early to actually put Hellborns on the list, because Hellborns are some of the easiest things to kill. I have not seen a lot of one-shotting. At points they can get crazy where you get so many of them, but that's a good problem to have kind of thing. But early on, if you are able to have them appear and you kill them, this is still a good way to keep things chill by using some of the other choices on the list I'm going to show you, but also then feeding in the Hellborns. I'm not going to update the list and add Hellborns to the top of ones to keep it cool, but as soon as you feel like you got your bearing, adding Hellborns into it can also keep it cool and add some decent rewards right away. So as I said, this is the graphic that we have. I have updated the things that will speed it up because I have definitely changed my approach. So things are going to get maximum rewards are over here or on the left, and then on the right, we are going to get the things that'll help keep it cool down. Remember, when you get a little bit of your bearing and you feel good, like you're going to be able to clear, start adding those Hellborns. That's where I would test it first, and that's going to give you the best reward for the least amount of risk. Now, at the end, I'm also going to include a second graph. Go ahead and I'll leave this on here for a bit, but take a screenshot and use this, guys, so you guys have it as a quick resource. But I'm also going to include a list of the ones I would choose over almost anything else if I've given the option, and the things I would never choose. And number 4 was a mistake. I always like pushing the limits. I always like seeing how far I can go. And I think that's really great, but the tiers are a huge jump. And just because you can do a tier above doesn't mean you should. You really want to match up the materials that you're collecting. You just have to match them up with what level of masterworking you're doing. If you still don't have great masterworking, and we'll go into a little bit more detail on how I do masterworking paired with this, because it will make a huge difference being powerful and making the tiers easier and easier so you can start getting those crazy rewards at the end. But you want to kind of pair with whatever level of materials you need to get all those base levels solid. That's really what matters most. Pushing just because you can also get to a point where you get less rewards because you're just barely clearing things. If, heaven forbid, the burning butcher shows up or they spawn on their own a lord, even if you didn't choose it, because that's a bad option. But even if that doesn't happen, it still slows you down significantly, and then you can get completely stalled or just die and not get any rewards. So it really is best that just because you can start to clear that, if you're not doing consistently or your rewards aren't very high, you may just come back a level and make sure you're getting those great clears, pushing the limits of what can you. You know, even in like tier 3 and 4, I was noticing I could get up to like 700 plus, which was, I noticed, was even difficult for some people that do past like 6. And so just know that if you get really dialed in, you can make it happen even in lower tiers and get much better rewards. It's something to really consider, because I would jump in and just get so excited, just get into my running mode, and I wouldn't think about elixirs. But elixirs are an obvious choice. They can make the clear significantly better. Obviously choosing ones that are best for you. For trying to get the most out of a run, the more attack ones that you can choose, the better you're going to do. So there's a few that I recommend that work for most builds. Test it out. My first one and favorite is attack speed. I was not loading this one, but for most builds, this is really, really awesome. Next was resources. If I had any resources problems where I was running out of resources, and so I couldn't do more attacks, that's going to have the biggest cut to my, my damage. And then lastly, critical strike, critical damage. Again, evaluate these, test them, even run through them, and see what works best for your build. There is one more that adds more damage. It's the overpower vulnerable. Know your build if that is a key piece, but you can test that one as well. But these are my 3 favorites: the attack speed one, the improved resources, as well as the critical strike and damage one. So these are going to help you a lot. Do not forget them like I did. So next, I have even more for you guys. I have a ton of bonuses because as I was going through this, I just thought up a bunch of things that I think would be even more valuable to you, and just want to make sure that we get it. As I have promised, I want to talk to you guys about what not to choose. Things I never choose. And I'm actually going to do this in a slightly order than I originally planned. But the first thing that I would never choose is I would never choose the Burning Butcher. It is not worth it. You can test it as a challenge, but the 25 that you get from it is not worth it unless you're one-shotting it. Next is the Lord. Again, if you can clear the Lords crazy fast, and I mean like in seconds. I don't mean you're wearing it down and you're pounding, because they just slow everything down as well. There is one advantage to them that, unlike the Butcher or some of the elites, they don't disappear after a round, they'll stay. And so you still have the chance to get all the rewards, and if you spawned a bunch of them, you still can get there. But it didn't seem worth it every time I ran it. They don't give enough. Hellborn give way more. Then the next thing that I would not choose is anything Soulspire related. People keep trying to tell me that this works if you stack them all, and I'm not seeing it. Like, I have a build, I have the Lightning Spear, it clears things off screen, yet it still doesn't seem to be enough to make them disappear fast. And heaven forbid I take the thing that doubles the amount of time that I have to spend in them, or number of kills I have to do while in the circle. But you're also not mobile. You're not running around. You're not killing the masses. You're not bringing in the elites. You're not clearing your Hellborn and bringing in or clearing more monsters that easily because you're shoved to one edge. This is not a solid option. I think that you can have a good run, but I don't think you can ever have a great run. So I just stopped choosing these entirely. Lastly, there's these bonuses to the final bosses. I will begrudgingly take these if there's nothing better. Like if I have a burning butcher, I have the choice of a lord, and then I have this one, fine, I'll choose it. I'll add 15 points for a massive increase in damage for the final bosses, or some decrease in my cooldowns or my evade, or how often I can use a potion. They don't seem to matter that much. Like for the most part, I see if I can get a good run, the bosses are easy in comparison. And so these little like increases in evade and potions isn't going to matter that much. But it doesn't seem worth the 15. I'd much rather get something that adds more. I'd rather choose the Hellborns. I'd rather choose elites. I'd rather choose things that speed up events. You know, that's always what I'm targeting. So on screen is the list of the things I would definitely choose over almost everything else in the order I would choose them. And then the things in the order, starting with the ones I would choose the least at the top going down. So you guys can, if you guys want to just grab a screenshot of that, you can have it, reference it whenever you need it. Cool. So I do have an added thing, and I want to show this to you guys because generally when you're starting masterworking, you have a pretty good build. You are clearing higher and higher tiers. You can at least do tier 6s and hopefully 7s because you're going to need the material to go all the way with masterworking. But let me show you at each of the stages what to kind of focus on. Let's say that I'm only getting the obolites. Those are the blue level ones of the first round you get. And I'm actually going to grab an item here. Let's make it something that I would actually want later. I'm going to take my Andariel's Visage because I would like to pump that for something else. It's a mythic. It doesn't have to be a mythic. Whatever you're working on, I know I'm going to do this one later, so I'm picking. So in this, we have the Obolite here, and then we know that we're going to get, after 4, we're going to get that 25% bonus to one of the stats. So looking at this, I don't think I'm going to need the maximum poison resistance. I might. I mean, that might push me to like where I have crazy coverage. But I have a ton of poison resistance built into this thing. I like the attack speed of the affixes. Probably attack speed is the one I want. Life on hits, kind of cool, but not that big of a deal. So I probably would want attack speed. Then the second one I begrudgingly take is all stats. And then maximum poison. But if I want to make this item great, it's more important that I get exactly what I want. I would rather have as I go. So there's going to be Obosite, the Ingolith, and the Netheron, you know, because those are all named very well. And you can tell they're connected. But as I go through the levels, so this is the first 4 levels, this is the second 4 levels, and this is the last 4 levels. At the end of each of these rounds, using these materials, I'll eventually get another 25% bump. If I can go all 3 rounds and get attack speed, this is going to be absolutely insane. So here I come in and I roll. I'm just going to do it till I get the 4th. And there, attack speed on the first one. So this is a good level for Obosite. Now I have the roll that I want. Let's go and we'll go for the second round. Do 3 of the yellow. And now roll life on hit. I don't want that. So if I want to try to get the perfect item, and even though sometimes it's a pain because I got a great roll on the first one, instead of wasting the materials to go all the way to the final, to the masterworking of 12 and get that other 25%, I know I'm going to want to reset this. So if I set this, whenever I don't get what I want, I can reset and then I can try again. So there, attack speed again on the second one, and I'll do the same process. But so what this allows you to do, if you are getting this level, the Obosites, that's all you're getting from the tiers that you can do in either the pit or in the Infernal Hordes, then you can just keep resetting these. Yes, you do have to feed some things into money, and we'll talk about that in a second. But make sure you have the cash to do it as well, because it's 5 million for every reset. That's quite a bit. But if you're running a decent amount of Infernal Hordes, you should have plenty of materials. So what I would do, instead of focusing on like, oh, I need to get to that next level so I can take these up to the next tier, wouldn't it be better if I could get all of my gear to the first level of all 4 of these with the stat that I want? Because you will get a lot of power if you make sure all of your gear has the one affix that you want to boost it. So just consider it that. And then I can then go to the next tier. And when I finally start dropping these, I want to do the same thing. Because I can always trade these down. I can't trade them up. I can't get the next level up. I can only go down. So instead of being worried that I have to jump up a tier and get something that I can not getting a lot of resources, or the runs aren't very good and I could even die and not get anything, I can just stay on that level and really get my masterworking dialed in for that level. And you keep doing that. So this is how you work up to these builds that are just absolutely insane. So I just want to show you that because I think it's made a huge difference to my gameplay by just understanding this process. Next, to make sure that we solve our gold problem, because you are going to have one, 5 million a hit, and especially if you get to multiple rounds, because now you have to re-roll the beginning one until you get it right after you started rolling the next one, before you can keep moving up that level. So I take whatever rewards I'm getting at the end, I make sure instead of just dropping whatever I have after I get all the materials. So I get as many materials as I can. I'm not really worried about gear at this point. I'm really trying to push. If you're still worried about gear, go ahead and grab that. But the materials chest is probably the most value to you for making a really, really strong build. So I feed into about 60 to 70% of what I have from that run into that, and then the rest in gold. So if I have a run that's 1,000, I'm going to feed a good 300 into gold. And that should give me a decent amount of gold to do what I need to do. It'll also help me with my enchanting and everything else. So those are going to add up a lot. And there is even more tips I didn't cover in this video that were covered in my original video, but this is the update. So anything I said here, this takes precedence. But if you want to see the original stuff too and make sure you have a full understanding, watch this video, 5 things I wish I had known about Infernal Hordes.